back. It's just an absolutely marvelous time to be having a webinar. So welcome everyone. I'm really excited about tonight. The webinar that we're doing now is a free webinar to give everyone just a taste, an overview, a little bit of an insight into the Anastasi system of psychic development level 4. Now, level 4 is an introduction to channeling and spirit communication. And you'll see the book cover here on the screen. That is a book that I wrote all the way back around 1998 and actually only recently published about 4 or 5 years ago. But that book has been the textbook for this class since the late 90s. It was written by me with input from John Mayers, who helped me to co-found this part of the system, the mediumship part. And this particular book also had some help from a co-teacher we had back then by the name of Jason Oliver. And Jason is since deceased, so I want everyone to know what a wonderful medium he was, and I honor him in this broadcast by saying that. He's just a spirit on the other side who I'm sure is continuing to give phenomenal help to everything that we do in our field. So, level 4, an introduction to channeling and spirit communication. And welcome everyone to the world of the unseen, because when we get into channeling and spirit communication, we are truly beginning to deal with those things, those people, those entities, those energies that are far beyond the physical plane. And it is through channeling and spirit communication that personally I have really come to understand. Even my long-term students aren't aware of this, so this is a little bit of Sandy personal information here. You see, in the early 2000s, my good friend John Edward was hosting a syndicated television program that actually started on Sci-Fi Channel and became so big that it was picked up by Universal, and that program was crossing over. And especially when it started out on the Sci-Fi Channel, crossing over was being listened to by millions and millions of people every night at 11 o'clock each night of the week as they drifted off to sleep. Now, those of you who've studied for college exams or high school exams, you all have already figured out that the best time to study is within a half an hour before you go to sleep, because that's feeding the information into your mind so that you get all the show. We're watching the show, clicking the TV off, and falling asleep with his information, his techniques, his connections in their mind all night while they slept. Now, many, many people have both channeling and natural spirit communication, natural mediumship ability. And what was beginning to happen is that people who were listening to his broadcasts were beginning to have spontaneous communication situations where they would, and both in channeling, which is almost like getting inspirations, and also in people from the other side communicating with them. You're still ahead of me. We're back one slide, Trish. So this communication that was happening with these people, for many, many of them, was a little bit frightening. You know, they'd get up in the middle of the night and they'd walk into the bathroom and there was standing their grandfather. Or they were having dreams that they were in communication with their deceased sister or their deceased brother. Or they were having dreams that their guides were connecting with them while they were sleeping. Now, because I was a long ago teacher of John Edward, and he had mentioned me in many of his books, and also on his show, when so many of these people who had watched his show said, oh my God, something is happening to me, something's unfolding, I need to learn how to do this, they naturally looked me up, and you'll see the picture here displays my old store, Star Child Books, that was in Port Charlotte, Florida, that I owned with my my present business partner and former store partner, John Mayers. Okay, so we were teaching our psychic development levels 1 through 3 at that time, and those are the levels that John Edward studied with me, levels 1 and 2, before he went out on his own to develop his mediumship on his own. A lot of people don't know that, but I did not teach him his mediumship. or his channeling. He actually learned all of those things on his own. What I taught him was the psychic development 1, 2, and 3. So what happened as I was teaching him is that he gained the foundation necessary to later on through his own readings build his ability as a channel and then his ability as a medium, and gradually became the absolutely wonderful, probably most renowned and certainly one of the very best psychic mediums on the planet today. Personally, I'm a little prejudiced. I think he's the best. But like I said, I'm prejudiced. So here, all of these people are now looking me up and saying, Sandy, you taught John Edward. Can you please teach us? Can you please tell us what's going on? Can you please tell us how to control these abilities? We don't want those abilities to control us. I don't want to be driving down the road and suddenly have my dead friend in the car next to me talking to me. Or I want to be able to control when my guides come in and talk to me and don't distract me. I want control over these abilities that are newly developing. Well, if you can only imagine, my partner, John Mayers, and I at the time looked at each other, scratched our heads, and said, oops, this was something we really didn't prepare for. Now, both of us were also channels, and both of us were also mediums, although mostly the two of us worked as actual psychics and psychic channels. So we put together with a tremendous amount, oops, Trish, your desktop is having a, there it goes, back to the picture. Okay, we did is we put together P4 as our first class in the series of spirit communication. Now, in this class, it's taught as a weekend, as so many of my other classes are, and on the Saturday of the class, we teach channeling. And on the Sunday of the class, the second day, we teach spirit communication. But we don't teach the whole thing in one day, so please, folks, don't get all excited. One of the things that you really need to understand is that almost anybody can channel. Almost anybody can do spirit communication once, okay? Or maybe they do it a lot, but with no control, and where it happens to them and they don't know how what stimulated it or how to make it work or go away, as the case may be. So honestly, when you're having the ability, that doesn't mean that you are a psychic medium or that you are a psychic channel. To actually become a psychic channel or psychic medium who can perform at will, who can control the ability, who can turn it on and off, who has the skill to hit and actually make sense out of what they're receiving 80–90% of the time, takes an enormous amount of study and work. So please don't get me wrong. And when I teach channeling in one day and spirit communication in one day, that's not teaching spirit communication or channeling. That's opening the door and giving you the groundwork. So Psychic Development Level 4 is just that. It's a very, very intensive weekend which teaches, and now we'll have the next slide, please, the natural progression, which starts you as a psychic, which is what we learned in levels 1, 2, and 3, how to develop our lower psychic senses. The next step is to become a psychic channel, which means now you're being able to connect with your higher self. You're being able to connect with your guides and get information from them. And the next step after that is to be able to communicate with the realm of spirits, with people who have passed on. Now, did you hear me say it's a natural progression? It is natural. Folks, John Edward only studied level 1 and half of level 2 with me. So he learned everything I teach in my Psychic Development Level 1, which are the lower psychic abilities of telepathy and empathy and clairvoyance, the basics. And he studied the beginning part of level 2, which was clairsentience, being able to read the aura and do empathic readings to diagnose illness or look at the body energy or see the aura. He made it halfway through that class, and he was so far in advance of the other students who were frankly quite a bit older than him, because he was 15 years old at the time. And I suggested that at this point his best approach was going to be, as you would say with any child, to apply what he had learned. He, of course, had his mother's full permission. She was his coach through all of this, and she was his absolute total support in helping him to learn what he did. So I'm not saying that I think all people should start studying psychic development and mediumship at 15 years old. It worked for John because he had such a wonderful support system at home. And his mother helped him by getting him to the places that he would do his readings. Now, I'm using him as an example because this will be the unfoldment for all psychics if they study just plain, ordinary psychic development, developing their psychic abilities with their lower senses. You start learning how to do your readings via telepathy, via empathy, via clairvoyance, via clairsentience, all those lower psychic skills. And you're reading, and you're doing copious amounts of readings. And then one day, you are working a little harder than usual, maybe to get the information, or you're a little more relaxed, you're really comfortable with what you're doing, or a combination of both, and you've done all of your meditation first, and you're really, really in a state of perfect balance and harmony with what you're doing. And all of a sudden you tap into a very, very strong part of yourself where the information seems to be just flowing. There's no more resistance. You're not even reading empathically or telepathically anymore. It's such a tremendous flow of energy, it's almost as if it's just coming through you. And at that point, doing all those regular low-level psychic readings, you see, has prepared your physical vehicle and your connection to your higher self so that the energy can now flow down through your higher self and via your higher self, your guides. And at that point, you become a psychic channel. So if you're hearing me, becoming a psychic channel is a normal, natural progression that will happen to every single psychic who really studies and applies themselves to their work and to their field. It's a natural progression. Now, am I going to say that without my classes it would take 6 months? No. Am I going to say it would take 20 years? No. Guess what? How long it takes is going to depend upon each and every individual. It's going to depend, if you don't do this within the context of a class that teaches you how to open it, it's going to depend on many, many factors. It's going to depend on how much work you put into it, how much time you spend meditating and balancing. It's going to depend on how quick a study you are. It's going to depend on how well and how comfortable you are with those psychic abilities you're using in your readings. There are so many variables, you see, that you could do that tomorrow or you could do that in 20 years without the help of a class. With the help of my psychic development classes, with Psychic Development Level 4, by the end of that first day, because you have studied levels 1, 2, and 3 that have prepared you for this, by the end of the first day of class, you are able to channel information directly from your higher self and your guides. And it feels, folks, different than when you're getting information via the lower psychic senses of clairsentience and telepathy and empathy and clairvoyance. It feels different because it's a flow of energy that comes through you, not a flow of energy that initiates from you. Okay? So we have a natural progression there. That same natural progression, if you continue working as a psychic and psychic channel, there you are, getting information through the energy of your higher self and your guides, that flow, you're in the flow, it's just flowing through you, and then one day you're doing a reading for someone and the information comes through so clearly and it has a very personal flavor. It's something like, when you used to wear glasses. It's something that has a really personal flavor. The timing of this event has to do with when you used to wear glasses. And all of a sudden, you as a psychic channel are saying, wait a minute, that was a bit of personal information there. That didn't come from my higher self and my guides. That came from someone else. And what happens in this natural progression is, figuratively speaking, it's like you turn around to see where that voice came from, because you know it wasn't yours, it wasn't your guide's, it wasn't your higher self. And that's when you make your very first conscious spirit communication connection, because there is your client's aunt or uncle or deceased sister or brother or friend, and they're telling that person this thing that's coming up initiated when you used to wear glasses. They're the ones who had the personal information. So I hope I'm making myself clear. Without any classes at all, you are capable of developing your psychic ability if you're open to it. Without any classes at all, you're capable of becoming a psychic channel. Without any classes at all, you're capable of becoming a psychic medium. However, this whole process for most people could take several lifetimes, not even just one. It's a long time coming. It's rare for me to get a student like John Edward in my class. It's rare to have somebody in my class who is going to eat up everything I have to teach within about 3 hours and then want more. I still get people like that. John is not the only one, okay? But he was the first and probably the greatest of all the students that I've had who were able to blossom as quickly as he did. Now, when I say quickly, and you'd have to actually talk to John directly about this or post this question perhaps on his Facebook, but he started, like I said, when he was 15 with me. Actually, he started when he was a child on his own, but he started taking classes when he was 15 with me and just took that class and a half of psychic development, and he took some tarot classes and a numerology class between John M. and I, okay, John Mears and I. So he took a few other things with us as well, but he never went through the entire system is what I'm saying. And what happened is he went into working as a professional by the time he was 16 years old. And to the best of my knowledge, he actually didn't do his clear first spirit communication reading until he was in his early 20s. So he didn't just walk out of my classroom with this natural progression and say, okay, I'm a psychic medium. You see, he didn't have those classes in it to give him the boost that you can get when you take these classes. Now, please be aware, I can give you, as I just said, I can give you the boost. From this natural progression, we can speed it up, okay? We can speed it up by taking classes, by understanding it, by doing these exercises that are going to help you to be in the right frame of mind, in the right psychic space to be able to take the next step. I can teach you protection, I can teach you values, I can teach you ethics, and I do. But nevertheless, it's going to depend on how much time, how much effort, how much love, because this has to be a journey of love you put into the development of these skills and abilities as to how long it's going to take you to develop them. And I'm honestly going to tell you that if you are truly a good channel and a good psychic medium, you will not ever stop learning in your entire life. It is a constant, continual experience of growth and joy. Okay? Let's have the next slide, please. In our next slide, I'm showing channeling and spirit communication being a natural result of spiritual growth too. This is very, very important because so many of you who have studied yoga, or you've studied in an ashram, or you've studied Indian meditative techniques, or perhaps you've studied American Indian shamanism, or Peruvian shamanism, or Hawaiian shamanism, or conversely, you've been studying Catholicism all of your life. Maybe you were practicing or studying to be in a seminary. You've done a lot of prayer, which is a form of meditation. These techniques of prayer, of deep thought, of concentration and focus, of reaching beyond oneself to something which has great spiritual definition, these things that you do also prepare the physical, emotional, and mental vehicles of yourself to be able to open up a channel to the higher self, to the higher mind, to your guides, to all of the people on the other side that you might want to be able to make that connection to, okay? So it's not unusual for people who have studied in these areas to have more frequent or more, let's say, easily created connections than people who haven't. It might be a little more difficult for people who have come from the scientific community, who are maybe not believers, who are people who say, prove it, I want to see everything in black and white. Now, if you are one of those scientific people, does that mean that you don't want or that you can't become a channel or a medium? Absolutely not. Of course you can. But you may have to set aside some of your clench mind, some of that part of you that looks at everything and has to take it apart and has to question and has to criticize. Okay, that scientist may have to be set aside. It is very, very difficult for somebody, especially in the fields of channeling or mediumship, to be the scientist. It's even difficult for people in these fields to be the subject in a scientific experiment. For example, there's a wonderful book called The Afterlife Experiments that came out in the early 2000s, where they interviewed numerous psychics and mediums and were able to prove the existence of an afterlife through the work that these people did. But the people involved, the mediums and the psychics involved, had to really, they had to put up with a whole lot of scientific jargon. It was very difficult for them to perform accurately under those conditions of criticism. I've got to tell you that if you are that type of personality and you cannot set aside your constant need for undermining your own ability, you might do better to be the person to stand on the sidelines and watch and study this than to be the person who does it, okay? So please be aware, in the process of learning, you need to keep an open mind, you need to have trust, you need to recognize that energy is the same as matter, that we do not die. You have to have that faith in order to be that psychic channel, in order to be that spirit medium. That faith has got to be there. So don't be surprised if the little girl sitting next to you at church on Sunday tells you that she actually visits with her dead grandmother every night before she goes to sleep. Because if she's very spiritual and religious, she will be more open to the process. Likewise, that person who has been studying yoga for years and years and years, and you suddenly talk about, I'm taking a class and studying mediumship, and the person says, oh, I hear those voices all the time, but in yoga we don't really pay attention to them, but they're there. It's just another part of life. Isn't that interesting? So don't be surprised. Those are other paths, other forms of training which do open you in similar ways to what I'm teaching in my psychic development classes. Folks, I also want to say I keep wanting people to take levels 1, 2, and 3 before they take level 4 because it sets the foundation. But if you've done a whole lot of work in these other fields, or certainly if you're already having visitations or seeing people who have passed clairvoyantly, or getting very strong messages from your guides and from your higher self, then certainly it's okay to jump right in at level 4. And guess what? Because of how the class is presented, you will know very quickly if you need to go back and repeat or study levels 1, 2, and 3, because you'll realize right away if there's something missing in the foundation that you've got, okay? Now, if we look at our next slide, this is showing, and this is important, folks, a difference between conscious channeling and conscious mediumship and trance channeling and trance mediumship. You'll notice that the person on the left-hand side is putting his hand in that source of energy. Now, that's figurative. I would actually see this in my own mind when I'm channeling and doing my readings, or when I'm doing a mediumship reading. I would see that energy is coming down, surrounding me, and being in my head. But or coming down into my crown chakra. The thing is that when we're in channel, our minds are clear, we are wide awake, we are fully in charge of our own bodies, our own minds, our own ears, our own eyes, our own voice. We're fully in charge. Whether we're doing a channeling session where we're connecting with our higher self or our guides, or whether we are doing a mediumship session where we're reaching out beyond that and connecting with people who've passed, regardless, when we are consciously doing this, which is the way I teach it, folks, you are completely conscious and aware of what you are doing. Therefore, you have the control. You can turn it on and off at will. Now, the guy on the right, obviously, he is not aware. This is the fellow who goes into trance. He goes away, and if he's channeling, a guide comes in and takes over his body and talks through him. If he's doing mediumship, a person who's deceased comes in and takes over his body and talks through him, or moves through him, or sees through him. Many times in trance channeling or trance mediumship, you actually will see such an enormous change in the medium that they actually don't even look like themselves anymore. And it could be that their body changes position totally. And I don't mean, there's something we call physical mediumship, which is where a regular medium who's conscious and aware will suddenly feel, for example, his right shoulder wanting to slump, and he'll say, did the person who passed have a problem with his right shoulder being lower than his left, okay? But that doesn't mean that's being taken over. That's just a symbol. It's a signal coming from the dead person that says, well, drop your shoulder because that's what I did. But if you are a trance medium, well, you aren't there. Your eyes are usually closed, or they're staring off into space, seeing nothing. And your body, it's not just that your right shoulder drops. Your hands become deformed. Your face changes how it's holding itself. Your eye shape will change very often. It doesn't happen every time, but very frequently, the physical persona of the person who's in trance will actually change. And the key is that when the trance medium is working, they will come awake afterwards and have absolutely no memory of what was said. They don't recall. There's no recollection. When the person who is in channel to do their channeling or their mediumship, channeling from their guides, or mediumship connecting with people who've passed, when they're done, they remember every word, at least for the first few minutes, okay, until they let it go and separate themselves from it, i.e. they're conscious through the whole thing. They are aware. They control it. They are in no way being invaded by something which is not themselves. Folks, in my classes, I do not teach trance channeling or trance mediumship. I want to tell all of you who are listening to this that if you are interested in learning that technique, there are many spiritualist churches around, and many of them will teach trance mediumship, and they teach it under the umbrella of the religion, which offers an additional protection. Even with that additional protection, I have to tell you, it is not my favorite thing, because when you bring something not self into and through your body, it has a way of burning out your nervous system. So it's not my favorite thing, which is why I do not teach it, okay? I do, however, teach people very successfully to become conscious channels like me. That's what I call myself, a future-oriented psychic channel. And also to become conscious mediums, psychic mediums, like John Edward, or like John Mayers, or like Sylvia Brown, or like my assistant Lisa Freeman, or. There are many, many mediums in the world, and when you look at them and watch them all work, you will find that each one has their own style. Even those who have studied all the way through my whole program have their own style of working. So, folks, if you take my classes, don't take them because you want to be like John Edward, because you can't. There's only one of him. Take my classes because you want to uncover the abilities that you have the skills that you have, because you want to be all that you can be. That's the reason to study. Okay? Now, let's go to the next slide. And I'm going to get to this in just a couple of minutes. I'm already seeing some hands that want to go up. So I'm going to take a break just for this moment before I go on to talk about protection. But frankly, you'll notice I'm leaving this slide on the screen because I like to look at it while we're talking. It implants that in your mind. When we do channeling and mediumship, protection is very important. But I'll come back and talk about that in a moment. Lisa, have you been collecting any questions? Is there anybody who, as I've been rambling on here, has a question about channeling or mediumship or how I got started teaching it?
Well, I have no questions as far as written out, but I have one hand that I'm seeing up.
Okay.
And I'm going to unmute, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Larrick Martinez. You are unmuted.
Okay. Hello, Larrick.
Okay.
We can hear you. What's your question or comment?
No, I'm sorry.
Did you raise your hand by accident?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, put your hand down. And before I go on, and I know I really didn't give you a lot of notice, as I've been rambling on about the difference between mediumship and transmediumship, about how I came to decide to teach channeling and to teach mediumship, about how the progression of psychic ability to channeling to mediumship works and why it works, or how long it takes you to become a medium. I'm kind of going over some of the things I've just talked about. Did any of those things create questions in your mind? Because before I move forward, this is the time for me to answer those questions. And please don't hesitate, because always remember, your question is probably the same question that somebody right next to you would be asking, but they might be too shy to do it. Okay, folks, at any time during my webinar, if a question on something occurs to you, you don't have to wait until I take another break. Just raise that little hand that is, you see the first column next to your name, that's closest to your name? Just click on that spot and it will raise your hand, okay? So if Lisa sees, yes?
I do have a question in the chat room.
Uh-huh. Okay.
This says, was Catherine, in parentheses, many lives, many masters, trance channeling during her regressions and during the between life moments?
Okay, so this was typed into the chat room.
Correct.
And I'm honestly not sure, Lisa, what that question is. I guess if she's asking, is it possible to go into trance to channel a book? Yes, it certainly is. Using automatic writing, which I teach in Psychic Development 3, is definitely one of the methods that can be used to enter trance. Again, I really don't recommend it. There are safer ways of doing automatic writing, which are just as good, that leave you in control. I can't really answer the question in greater depth than that, because it's not clearly enough defined for me. Okay, I do see other hands that are up, so yes, why don't we go through some of them?
Okay. Kathleen, you're unmuted.
Hi.
Hi, Kathleen.
How are you, Sandy? Lisa?
Oh, I'm great. I absolutely love the spring, so I'm happy.
Me too. My question is, would you consider Edgar Casey a trance medium, or is he in the category? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, I'm so glad you brought him up, because he really is, in many ways, the father of modern mediumship. He's phenomenal. His information was absolutely astonishing and remains astonishing to this day. Kathy, can I ask you to mute your mic, because we're getting a little echo back. We're getting some feedback from it. Thanks. Edgar Casey was a trance channel, As the story goes, I think he fell from a ladder, and as he was recovering, he recognized he had this ability. And his particular skill was, I mean, he did many, he came and gave many pieces of information in his channeling, but his particular skill was to reach out to people who were a very long distance away and to do health scans for them. And he was very, very accurate in his information. And a lot of, if you go and visit the ARE, which is in Virginia Beach, of course, you can also look this up online. You'll find tremendous information about Edgar Cayce, or Casey. And the thing that is important is that Edgar Cayce was told by his control. Now, folks, he worked, not all mediums do this, but he worked with a control as a trance medium. He had a particular spirit who would come in to open the gateway for him and then bring other spirits in. That was called a control spirit. And his control spirit had actually told him that if he continued to do the work that he was doing at the rate that he was doing it, that he was going to pass early, that he had a very limited time to live. So he was told that the work he was doing was debilitating his body because of the actual trance that he was going into, which brought the energy of the spirit directly into his body. He chose to continue doing his work because he really felt that saving other people's lives was more important, I guess, than saving his own. And he knew that it was going to kill him. He continued. The answer to your question is yes, he was a trance channel. And he's a really good example when I'm giving my seminars and teaching my psychic development, channeling, and spirit communication weekends as to why I caution my students not to do trance channeling. Is it effective? Yes. If you're good at it, can it be good? Yes. If you are channeling the right information in the right way for the right people, you can make phenomenal changes on the planet. Edgar Cayce was one of the best known, best loved to this day psychic mediums in the world. However, he's not alive. Okay, and that's an important thing to take note of when you decide that you want to do that type of mediumship. Now remember, not every medium is going to be a trance medium, and even if you have the tendency or the ability to be a trance medium, which, for example, I have, and many, many of you in my audience right now have, it doesn't mean you have to be. You just say no to that, and you don't go into that aspect of mediumship, and you do it more in a cognitive sense, where you learn to open the channel, and through the channel connect with the people who have passed. And by doing that, you're going to remain healthy for many, 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 many years. And I'm going to take another question. Is there another hand up, Lise?
Okay, there is. Vicki, you are unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somehow my hand went up as well.
You twitched. Okay. You're not the only one.
It is interesting listening.
You're in good company. Okay.
Thank you.
And I think Larac still has his hand raised. I think. Larac, did you have another? I just clicked your hand off. If you have another question, put it back up again, and then we'll know that you're actually asking a new question. Okay? And I think that's all the hands that I see raised right now. No, Vicki. There's a Vicki here too. Vicki, can I answer your question?
Vicki's the one that you just spoke with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there she goes. Yeah, see, all you got to do is click on the hand. I thought that was a different Vicki. Sorry about that. And we ready to talk to Kathleen too? Kathleen, just click on that hand. You want me to do it for you? Okay. Now you're gone. See that? If you decide you have a question later, just click on the box, Kathleen, and the hand will come back again. Okay? Okay. As I was talking about Edgar Cayce, I was feeling, because I'm a psychic and I feel a lot of times what you folks are thinking and wanting to know, that there were quite a few of you out there, at least 4 or 5, who really want to know what Esther Hicks is doing when she stands up on stage and she channels a group of spirits called Abraham. Is she trance channeling, or is she doing mediumship or trance mediumship, or is she doing regular channeling or regular mediumship? Anybody have an idea what that might be that she's doing? Do I see a hand? Anybody want to take a stab at it? What do you think Esther's doing? Has anybody ever seen her work either on YouTube or in person? If you were lucky enough to attend one of her events, she's amazing. Okay, I don't see a hand, so whoever it was I'm picking up on wasn't willing to identify themselves. The answer to that is that Esther Hicks is a psychic channel. She is not doing mediumship. She's not channeling a group of dead spirits. She's actually channeling a group of entities who are basically her guides. Okay, she's in channel and she is totally conscious of what she is saying. That energy is coming through her with amazing force. And if you haven't gone to see one of her events, I'm going to encourage you to do it. I went recently myself, and I was thrilled to death to see the amazing information that she is able to bring through. So that's something to put on your bucket list, every one of you. Okay, let's get back to our webinar tonight. This guy in armor, obviously you're not going to put a suit of armor on every time you decide that you're going to do mediumship or become a psychic channel. But in my classes, all the way from Psychic Development Level 1 all the way through Level 6, yes folks, there are 2 levels beyond Level 4, so it gets even more in depth. All the way through, I am teaching you the next level of protection for what you are doing, so that you are going to be able to learn these skills, to be able to do them consciously at will, turning them on and off, but also to protect yourself and your environment so that you can do these things without ever having anything to fear, because you're going to be able to know not just how to feel the energy, but to how to protect from the energy if that's what you feel you need to do. Now, once again, I'm going to ask anyone here, because this is a big subject. I'm not going to go into specific protections, but I will tell you that in my classes, I'm teaching different protections for the different things we do, and I'm teaching the protection for the psychic channel, the psychic medium, as well as for the room. Okay, Kathleen, I see your hand up, and I know Lisa has been controlling those hands. So Lisa, could you get Kathleen on the line?
Let me find her. Nope, Kathleen has herself unmuted, so she's going to have to unmute herself.
Okay, so Kathleen, Lisa can't unmute you the way you have yourself done. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Hi.
There you go.
Do I understand you correctly, Sandy, that there are levels of psychic protection? Is that what you mean, like levels of like grade school? I'm not quite sure.
Okay, imagine this. Okay, we're going to put this into, oh, I love your questions.
Thank you.
I absolutely, my very favorite questions are the ones that are really practical, that get right down there, in the mud and say, okay, this is what's going on, how do we do this, what's up? And that was a good question. I want everybody to be clear on what I'm saying. Think of this in terms of your home, okay? If you live in the country, right, you're out there in this farmland, and you know all your neighbors, and you're not even near any major highways, okay, and you have a dog. You probably don't need to lock your door, okay? Now, if you live in suburbia and you're in this really nice community, but you're surrounded by lots of friends and neighbors that you like, you have a dog, but after all, people do go by your house who are strangers, you don't know who they are, so now you just turn that key and you lock the door when you go out at night, okay? Now, let's take this a step further. You decide that you're going to move into the city. There are tons and tons of people around you, most of whom you don't know. You're not in a gated community. Your apartment has one little entrance straight off the street. And so, you're going to have probably a regular lock, but in addition, you're going to have a deadlock, okay? Now you're moving to the heart of the city, and you happen to be in a high crime area, okay? You wouldn't let your daughter walk the streets after 7 p.m., okay? So, and again, you don't have any gates, and you have a dog, but you know sometimes he might sleep. He's kind of old. So in addition to having that regular lock and the deadlock, you're probably going to have that little lock across the top, and you might even have a couple of deadbolts on that door. And if you're in a really high crime area, now you put bars on the windows going around the house on that first floor. You got it? Okay. When I'm talking about levels of protection, I'm not really saying that, okay, you need a different protection because you know you're now in high school, so you can protect more. It's not like that. Your levels of protection increase depending on the vulnerability that you are placing yourself in. So you see, when I'm all the way at the very beginning level of working with my psychic ability, where I'm just, you know, I'm reading people's thoughts, okay? I'm picking up on things. I don't really need a whole lot of protection there. You know, white light, an energy balloon, that's going to be plenty, okay? Surrounding myself in the white light makes me feel good. It puts out pleasant thoughts. I attract nice, happy people. When I get to the next level where I'm working with empathic readings and I'm actually putting my hand out into somebody's aura and feeling it, oh boy, I need some heavier protection. I'm going to put on psychic bracelets there because although I want to be able to read them, I don't want to connect or absorb their energy. Well, when I get to the next level, and now I'm taking this whole thing a step further, I'm not just doing telepathy and empathy, now I'm going into channel. Well, I want to really make sure that I meet my guides in a very highly protected way, know who they are, because I don't want somebody who really isn't my guide to come in and pretend to be my guide, because then I could be taking orders or getting information from somebody who does not have my best interest in mind, okay? By the way, your guides don't ever give you orders. Please remember that. They give you suggestions, hints, and they try to help to guide you, that's the term, in the direction which is best for your spiritual growth in this lifetime. They do not ever tell you what to do. If you have a guide that's telling you what to do, you need to re-protect in a really intense way. And I do have in my Psychic Development Level 3 book and in my Psychic Development Level 4 and Level 5 and Level 6 books, I have this very, very intense, complete suit of armor type meditation, guided visualization, that by the time you're done, everything's going to bounce off of you. It's a very intense protection. And we do that protection before we connect with our guides the first time to make sure we're really getting our real guides, okay? So we protect the space around us, we protect ourselves, then we meet our guides. Now, when we do mediumship, because this is the real important one, now we're reaching outside of our space to connect with something that's not self. And you know, on the spirit level, just because somebody died did not mean that that person became a really good saintly being. If they were, you know, a murderer and a rapist here, they might very well have the same demeanor and character on the other side. And whereas you might want to be a medium, you probably don't want to be a medium that has to connect with that person, okay? You wouldn't want to invite him to your dinner table, probably. When he was living, you probably don't want to invite him to connect and communicate with you when he's dead, okay? So we need to be able to step up the protection still further. So the most intense protection that I teach my students is when they're actually doing mediumship. And what intensifies it even beyond the protection we use to meet our guides in channeling is because now we're getting the protection from our guides. We actually bring in a protector guide, okay? Did that answer your question, Kathleen? Because I think that was a really good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And really, I appreciate when you ask those questions because, you know, I don't always think, although I try, of every single one of those things that you're going to want to ask, you know. So thanks. Kathleen, I'm going to lower your hand here. If you get another question, put it back up again, okay? I guess you have another question, so jump right in. What's your next question?
That was a mistake.
That was another finger twitch. Okay.
I do have someone else, Sandy. Do you have time for one more question?
Yes, I do. Go ahead.
Okay, because this is one that I botched up earlier. My apologies to Michael. Michael, I'm going to unmute you.
Oh, that's quite all right, Lisa. How you doing? Hi, Sandy. It's Mike.
Hello, Mike.
When you were describing...
Hey, Mike, I am really happy to hear from you. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
I know my schedule's been, it just hasn't been conducive to getting down there. My daughter's right here sculpting my ear. She's saying hello. So anyway, so I will. So when you were describing trance channeling and trance mediumship, you were showing talking about the picture with the fellow who's lying down with his eyes closed and he's not even realizing what's going on. And it made me think about Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters, where it wasn't a real name, but the woman he called Catherine, I believe, she was obviously regressed through hypnosis. It was I was partly thinking about the regressions, those lifetimes, but I was especially thinking about the in-between, what Brian Weiss, I believe he referred to as the in-between state, where she was bringing through really high-level stuff. And it was, you know, like coming from the source or what have you. And it just made me wonder, and that's why I raised my hand and posed the question, is that more in line with what you're describing as trance?
That would not be trance mediumship. Trance mediumship would be her talking to people who are dead. What you're describing is more her acting as a trance channel. And in answer to your question, Mike, I have also seen that. I had a friend a long time ago who was an excellent hypnotherapist, and he was also a little bit of a New Ager, so he was dabbling in things like this, just as Brian Weiss did. And he had a woman in his office who was able to go into a somnambulistic trance, which in hypnosis means that she was able to go so completely out that she, I mean, you could pick her up by her hair and she wouldn't even twitch. She had no conscious awareness at all. She was a rag doll. In that state, he was able to regress her. I don't even want to use the term regression, to hypnotize her, to connect with her higher self, to connect with the spiritual world on the other side on a very high level, and to bring through all the same kinds of information that Brian Weiss was getting in Many Lives, Many Masters. So this is something that other hypnotherapists could do too. Now, I've got to tell you that I felt very bad about this, not because of what Brian was doing or this other hypnotherapist was doing to get information, but because, you see, when he brought this girl, when my friend brought this girl out of trance, she had absolutely no memory of anything she had done. So here was somebody who had the natural ability, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do this with her. She had the natural ability, even without going into trance, she would have been able to open that channel and to get that information about past lives and about the other side and about things that would be happening in the future. She had the natural ability that the hypnotherapist was able to access for her by putting her into a hypnotic trance, very similar to the trance medium or channel who goes into trance would use. And just like them, when she woke up, she said, "Did you get anything good? Did you get anything good?" And that just made me feel so bad because she was missing out on what she should have been able to do herself. So, did that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, it did. And I have 3 more questions, but I don't want to take up everybody's time.
Well, hold on to them for now, and if we have time at the end, put that hand back up. We'll come back to them.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay?
Thanks, Andy.
And thanks for asking that. I love your questions, folks. They're great. And in the meantime, I'm seeing a couple of other hands that went up. Lisa, you want to ask for anybody else? See who else still has that hand up?
Okay. Barbara, I see your hand up, so I am unmuting you.
Hello?
Hello, Barbara.
Oh, hi, Lisa. Hi, Sandy. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'll make my question quick for time-wise. I was listening to John Edward earlier today, actually, and you've been using
Isn't that
him a lot
great?
as an example, yes. And so I'm going to use him again to ask the question. He was doing a reading. He was talking to someone, and he was bringing up a choking, okay, of a person who had crossed over. And you could see it was affecting him. He started coughing. He was clearing his throat. It was physically affecting him. Now, no, he uses protection. He does prayer. He meditates.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And he has really, really big guides. He has the big dudes.
Right, exactly. Okay, and yet this still affected him. So if someone, you know, I guess my question is when you are breaking the connection, when you're done, you know, you shake the energy off, you break the connection, but that still has affected your energy.
Well, no. Do you remember, and I'll repeat it again because this is very important. Yes, a person who goes into trance channeling will take on the entity literally, because an entity fills their body. That is not what John was doing.
Oh, wait, no, I wasn't saying that he was.
But let me finish, please. Okay, I've got to finish this. What John was doing was evidence of what you would call physical mediumship. Have you ever seen a medium that is all of a sudden pointing their finger and shaking at somebody when they're doing the reading, and they don't normally shake their finger, they're just doing it then. And all of a sudden the person says, oh my God, that's my father, he used to do that. Okay, that's a more benign form of physical mediumship. Physical mediumship is where you will feel in your physical body or actually do something with your physical body that the person who is deceased did. It's only a symbol. It's the same thing as John getting a bouquet of red roses. Only this was the spirit giving him the pressure and the coughing in the throat. It was a symbol. And the instant he identified it, and the person said, oh yes, that's who that was, it was gone. It's a symbol. Did that make sense?
Yes, makes total sense. Now I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, now I get it.
Now here's what's important, and this is definitely one of the things that I teach. If the medium isn't well trained and doesn't recognize that everything they're experiencing up there belongs to the spirit, not them. If they think that that sudden coughing fit belongs to them, they could end up walking out and taking it on.
Okay.
Okay? And again, in my classes, that's something we work very, very hard to teach you how to do, to literally be a pane of glass so that nothing sticks. And believe me, nothing sticks with John. Okay? We don't have to worry about him choking.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and I think I have time for one more before I move on. And I'm seeing, I'm trying to go back and forth. Kathleen, is your hand still up, or did it go up again?
No, it's a mistake. Sorry.
You got that itchy trigger finger. And Elizabeth, you have your hand up also. Elizabeth, I think Lisa can unmute you.
Okay, that's not a mistake. I did that. Hey, I wanted to ask you, Sandy. People, I used to see deceased loved ones when I was a kid, when I was a baby, and they used to come to me all the time. And I want to know if this class will help me. And I've done some mediumships, but it's not the same. I don't see them dead on like I used to, but I do feel their presence sometimes. And so will this kind of hone in on the skills that I have, or I know it won't bring back the stuff that I had before, but...
Oh, Elizabeth, I don't want to hear that. Quit that negative attitude. You know,
okay.
No room here for negativity, okay? If you had those skills as a child, you still have those skills. You just have to...
Okay.
Okay? And here's the thing, and this is with every single psychic ability that we have, folks. It's not just mediumship or channeling or empathy or telepathy, every psychic skill that we have. If you try too hard, it's almost as if you keep it away from yourself. So unfortunately, you have to allow yourself to redevelop these skills through remembering them, through allowing them, through taking joy in them, through getting excited about them, just in the same childlike way a child would.
Gotcha.
Okay? Good question, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to see if there's any, I'm trying to get everybody's questions in here, because every time I do one of these, I feel like I'm missing so many people. So if you do not have a question, make sure you've looked at your name and that the hand is down, because I'm still seeing Kathleen's hand up, and I'm not sure if that's a new question or not. And I see Vicki Van Hoos, I see your hand up too. So if those are not new questions, please, and Terry Whitaker's hand just went up too. If those aren't new questions, take the hand down, okay? And if they are new questions, or, then Lisa, take your pick. I've got time for one more right now, and I'll try and get to the others a little later.
Okay, Terry's is a new question, so I will unmute Terry.
Okay. And Terry, you took the hand down. Thank you.
No, I didn't mean to.
Well, it's down. That's a good thing because you're on, and after this, your question will hopefully be answered.
Okay. I got too many questions. Sandy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I've got like 3 or 4 questions. I'll just reduce it down to one.
Excellent.
I would like to know your thought on a person's eye color. My ex-husband had dark brown eyes when I married him some 30 years ago, and now his eye color has changed to like a hazel green. Is that an indication of something?
Oh, I don't think so. You know, Terry, that's one of those loaded questions. You know, there are certain chemicals that you can take, certain foods that you can eat that will actually change your eye color. Whoever's flushing the toilet, would you please mute? Terry, I think we need to have you mute your mic, and I'll keep answering the question. Okay, thanks. And no, I'm not saying it was you with the toilet. Actually, that was probably feedback over the line. I was just making a joke. The thing is that there are so many things in our physical environment that can affect eye color that before you jump to any conclusions, make sure that there hasn't been a gradual change of diet or other chemicals or minerals or drugs that your husband has been on that might have made those eye color changes. The other thing that can change eye color, and also literally everything in your body, surprise, surprise, and I'm going to be talking about this in a few weeks when I teach my online Sex and Energy webinar, but the energy exchange between 2 human beings can definitely result in changes in how both of them look. I mean, how many times have you seen people who've been together for 40 years and darn it, they don't look like each other, okay? You know, you swore he used to be 6 feet. Somehow he's now looking like he's 5'8". She used to be 5'3". Now she looks like she's 5'8". And, you know, honestly, people start to look like each other. Well, the eye color can change in the same way. So you can start to blend the eye color. You can start to blend the hair color. It's really kind of interesting what happens. Now, if you've X'd out all of those possibilities, which are, you know, putting your feet on the ground and dealing with reality, now, and I think this is your real question, can you see spirit through the eyes? And the answer is absolutely yes, you can. They say that the eyes are the windows of the soul. I have seen a fellow who is a shaman locally. His name is Mick. I've seen him do his eagle dance. And when there he is down and spreading his wings, and I've seen the eagle, who is his guide, look out of his eyes. Okay? I am absolutely certain way back when Edgar Cayce was the sleeping prophet lying on his couch, that if I had pried one of his eyelids up and taken a look, I would have seen something totally different in the expression in that eye than I normally would have seen in Edgar Cayce when he was living his normal everyday life. I've seen people who were in a moment of spiritual ecstasy and joy and seen this incredible radiation coming out of their eyes. Personally, have I ever seen someone's eyes change color? And yes, I have on several occasions. I've seen somebody, this was interesting, I've seen somebody who had brown eyes that were hazel that sometimes went back and forth between the two, and I've seen the eyes shift to where one eye was brown and the other eye was hazel. That was really interesting. And I think that had to do with their mental state, but the eye color shifted. People who have a tendency towards hazel eyes, you're going to see those shifts more dominantly because the eye color tends to shift back and forth. So I hope I haven't totally confused you. Do you have a comment? I hope I answered your question. Okay, I don't think we're going to hear anything more from you. If I haven't answered your question, come back on later. And one more, and then we're going to move on. Mary, I thought I saw you with your hand raised up there. Lisa, can you unmute Mary for us? She's on the phone.
Mary, you're unmuted.
Hi,
She's
Sandy. Sandy?
Yes, I'm here, Mary.
Oh, hi. I have a question. I find when I do my readings for people, I heat up I know that sounds strange, but I get very, I get hot. And I just want to know if that's something, as I'm doing them, the energy gets really strong, and I like, it gets really intense, and I know it's just, I guess that's what I'm asking. Do you also get that way? Is that something that?
Nope, I'm not a heater-upper, but I bet you.
I'm sorry?
Also, I'm personally me. I'm not a heater-upper, but I've heard many mediums and psychics talk about this experience you're describing, and I did have a student a while back that we just used to laugh because every time he even meditated, the entire room would literally go up about 8 or 9 degrees. It wasn't, I mean, he raised the temperature in the room. It wasn't just him. So it's not unheard of. What I will tell you is that that ability very strongly usually goes with being a telekinetic medium. That means the person who has the ability to make lights flash and radios come on and off and TVs flip and things like that.
Okay, because I was like, I don't, at first when it was starting to happen, it just seemed odd to me. I thought it was my imagination, but then I was just like, I just know that I'm going to get really hot as it happens. And then I was like, no, this is like, I just know this now. And the next time I said when I spoke to you, I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, and what it is the energy flowing. And obviously there are some things you can do about it. You can make sure that you are, when you're going to do a reading, that you're dressed very lightly, or that you have something that you can easily take off so that you're going to cool down, because you know that this is going to be one of the patterns for you. As you get better at your readings and they become easier and smoother, you will not get as hot. That I can promise you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. I knew that when I showed that suit of armor, I was going to get a whole rash of questions. Thank you, folks, for all those questions. And if your hand is up, leave it up, because I'm going to take another break in a few minutes before we end, and hopefully I'll be able to answer a few more of your questions. Okay, here is a good question that I'm asking. What can you expect? What can each of you expect to get in your life, to receive from learning how to channel? And how will it benefit you? And, for myself, I've got to tell you that it's one of the things about me that I am most grateful for. I consider my channeling ability, and it was with me all of my life, but like each of you, had to be developed. Okay, it's an ability, but it was like a muscle that had to be developed and finally honed in order to work right. Okay, well, I consider that to be my absolute best trait that brings me a sense of joy and connectedness to my guides, to my higher self, brings me peace. I love working with the ability that I have to create that channel to the other side, to connect with my guides and my clients' guides. I absolutely love that experience because they can come through with the things that my clients truly need, instead of taking the shots in the dark that I might have taken if I was simply working with astrology or tarot or tea leaves or numerology or any of the many other fields that I have also studied and know. I love them, I work with them, but they are never as dead on, and yes, that was a pun that was intended, they are never as dead on as when I'm channeling in my readings. So I just absolutely love myself. I'm sharing that with you. What can you expect to get from learning to be a channel? You can expect a stronger connection to your higher self and your guides. Because of that stronger connection, here's how it'll benefit you. You're more peaceful. You make decisions more easily, more clearly. You have an inner sense of knowing that, yes, this is the right direction to go and this other direction isn't the right direction to go. Other people are going to really enjoy being around you because your energy always feels clean and clear. You find yourself walking taller, standing taller, you're happier. Are you getting the point, folks? This is why everybody should learn how to make that connection to their higher self and bring that energy through their higher self and their guides. It can actually be a benefit to you in every aspect of your life, whether you choose to be a professional psychic or not. This is the reason why people study yoga. It's the reason why they work so hard to raise their kundalini, to have their spiritual awakenings and spiritual experiences, because that's what happens when you open that psychic channel. It's absolutely amazing. It's the thing that I want most for all of my students to experience. And it's something I have and I absolutely love to share. Okay? So I'm always hopeful that all of my students will stick with the classes at least through Psychic Development Level 4, and that they will become the good developed psychic channels that I know every one of us has the ability to be. And let's move to the next slide before I stop and ask some more questions. Okay. In this next slide, I'm asking the same question, but here I'm asking, why do you want to be a psychic medium and how can that benefit you? Well, here, let me talk first about how it can benefit you. You know, I recently lost, and I know for many of you who aren't animal lovers, this doesn't sound important, but I recently lost my little dog Sam, who had been battling pulmonary hypertension, a killer in dogs, for several years. And that loss was devastating to me. Okay, Sam was a part of my life for 15 years that were major changes in my life. So Sam accompanied me through all those changes, and of course through all those changes we bonded very intensely. So when I lost little Sam, that was every bit as intense for me as when somebody else would lose their mother or their best friend. And the thing that allows me to be comfortable with her loss is the fact that I know we don't die. I know we all go on. I know that Sam is in spirit. And I know that all of the people that I have always loved and cared for are still in spirit and are still with me. When I need them, they'll hear me. I know this. And I don't just question it. I don't just say, well, I hope. I'm going to tell you, I hope you're hearing this. There's no guesswork involved. I know. Why do I know? Because I've seen so many people in my readings. Because I've seen people's dead fathers come and give them a hug and love. And I've seen people who were concerned about their best friend or their child or something that was left undone and came to give that information. I have myself participated in helping to recreate the connection. And what does mediumship do? It proves that there's life after death. It proves that people don't die. And folks, I might not have been born in what is that state, Missouri, but I am definitely a prove it, show it person. And guess what? By doing mediumship, when that has been part of my work, my reading, and it has often enough that I can teach it, and it has often enough that I have no doubts, and I would like to share that with all my students, with all of you on this webinar, there should never be a doubt. And once you have done your very first mediumship reading, you'll come away from that reading not just with the thrill of, wow, I didn't believe I could do that, but you'll come away from that reading with the knowledge that you don't die. Now, how can it benefit you? Just imagine for one moment how your whole life changes the instant you fully accept, no, you don't die. You grieve for your loss, of course. I grieve that Sam passed, but I don't grieve for her loss from the universe because she's still there. She's just in spirit form. So the whole way I look at life has been affected by that simple knowledge. You don't die. Your deceased relatives can see you. Your deceased relatives, if they choose to, can participate by sharing with you in your dreams when you allow them to connect, if you allow that. How beautiful is that? Now, I'm not saying that you should give up the living world for the dead world, please. I'm not even asking you to go there. What I'm just telling you is it makes the physical world and the physical life that you're living so much richer to know that this is only one small part of reality. And when we die, we go on to experience a far greater reality. And when you no longer have that terrible fear of death, everything in life and how you approach everything in life shifts. That is a phenomenal reason to study for anybody spirit communication. You don't need to want to be a professional. All you need to really know is how to learn, how to make that connection, because then you know for sure what happens. You know, okay? And now, again, is a good time for me to take a little break, and I've got a few more hands up here. Lisa, could you pick somebody, and let's see who has a question that I can fit in.
Okay, I hope I pronounced this correctly. Mary Lucy, you are unmuted.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Oh, yay! Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I had a question, actually, on the protection.
Mm-hmm.
I've often heard, I should say, people say that you won't necessarily see, let's say, maybe undesirable things or things of a more negative or lower nature unless you're coming from that place. And with that being said, I was praying, I can't remember if it was the rosary or the mala one night, and I did notice somebody watching me to my right. So with my eyes closed, I just, turned to my right to look, and there was a lady who looked like she was just pleading for help. This just stuck with me because I could never really understand it fully. And then below my chin, I noticed my attention was drawn below my chin, and below my chin I saw this, I don't even know what it is, like I dare say man, and he was just walking. He never once looked at me, but he was below my chin and he was just walking. At that point I just opened my eyes and I said, okay, that's enough of this.
Yep, and this is why the whole study of mediumship, Mary Lucy, right? That's how I pronounce it?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I love when my guides help. The whole study of mediumship is so comprehensive. It would be so easy to fall into the trap of wanting to be there for every spirit who wants to communicate, for good or for bad. What you described didn't really tell me if that spirit was a good spirit or a bad spirit, only that they were somewhat lost, okay? The thing is that would you, think about this in the real world, would you leave your back door open, and if a total stranger just walked in without knocking and went in and sat at your kitchen table, would you feed them dinner?
No.
Well, then why the heck would you do that as a medium? Point made?
Yeah. I mean,
you have a shingle. I'm open for business now. I'm closed for business now. Okay? You have locks on your door. Those locks only come off when people you've invited want to come in. Okay?
Okay.
And you don't actually ever invite them into yourself. You invite them to talk to you or give you the information so that you can repeat it to the person that you're giving information to. Mary, I hope that you at some point are able to come and take my classes. And now is a good time to just tell everybody I've got Psychic Development Level 4 coming up very, very soon. It's going to be on April 27th and 28th in Tampa, Florida. It's a all-weekend intensive. It is on all the things we're talking about here, and it goes quite deep. It's going to get you started, and it addresses all of these things in a whole lot more depth because it's hands-on. You're actually doing this by the time you're at the end of the weekend. We're at the Sheraton West Shore, which is an all-suite hotel. We got a great room, and the weekend is really like a weekend intensive. We all get very upfront, personal, and close with each other in terms of doing this work. It's a nice, safe, protected environment to work in. So please, if you can't come to this one, it's obvious from the things that you just mentioned in your question that you are already getting, I'm going to call them visitations, and that they're not necessarily welcome visitations. I do think you handled that one properly when you said no, go away, not interested. But yeah, and I'm grateful that you recognized that that was not for you and you took the right action. But you know, it tells me that what you're going through here tells me that you're ready to take the next step and be a lot more not more protected than you are right now. You know, it's interesting. I always say to my students, the person who really has to worry when they get involved with the psychic field is the killifish entering into the ocean where there are whales, okay? I.e., when you are only at the very, very beginning stages and you don't really properly know how to protect yourself, but you're so excited that you're opening in, you know, all over the place, you know, like you're like this little puppy dog. Come and get me, come and get me. And sure enough, the whale's going to come and eat you, okay?
Right.
Well, my students don't have those issues, because by the time you actually get in the water and you're swimming along, you're not a killifish anymore. You're a baby whale, okay? And you're just too much trouble. So the other whales are not going to bother you, you know? If somebody's going to bother you, they're going to have to be a really, really big whale because you're just too much trouble to bother with. The killifish are easier targets. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it really behooves you, if you can't actually come to the classes, get my Blu-rays and study them. They're great. It's like being in the class. If video isn't your thing, then get the CDs. You can, don't play the meditations in your car, but you can listen to everything else on the road. It's an easy way, even if you're a busy person, to absorb the information. And you need to apply the things that I teach. You know, remember I said earlier in this session that John Edward started his studying with me when he was 15, went professional at 16, and really got into his, and you'd have to talk to him, but I think he got into his actual mediumship readings in his early 20s. That was a long time later, especially for somebody that really made this their entire world and life. And he was very gifted, and he had great guides and a great mother who helped him out. And his ability developed slowly enough that his protection, his natural protection, developed with his natural ability. This is why, you know, I know that John's not going to walk out of a session with a problem with his throat, because his protection is phenomenal. It's just not going to happen. But when you're studying, you're jumping in because you want to do all these things, and you haven't learned the protection yet, but you're opening up like that puppy dog, you are like the killifish in the ocean. You're at risk until you take the time either to slow your progress down or really make a point of studying the protection for each level. Okay?
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So
You're very welcome.
Just with like saying the rosary or the mala, should I protect myself before that too?
Oh yeah.
I thought I would be good if I just...
That's a beginning, okay? It will protect a killifish from a goldfish, okay? You need a lot more than that for protection from the whales, okay? And even if you pick up my Psychic Development Level 4 book, Level 5 book, they're available on ebooks, and they're not expensive. They are going to give you the descriptions of what to do to make sure you're protected, okay?
Okay.
And my guides are telling me that you're somebody who learns from books. So I still want you to come to classes, but that's a good way to get started with the books, okay?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I would love to make it out to one of your classes. I'm in California, but I don't know when that would be possible, but I'll leave it open.
Well, if you can only attend 2 classes, okay, take Level 1, because that's the foundation to everything, and take Level 4.
Level
okay.
1 and Level 4?
Right. Those are the 2 most important classes in the series.
Okay.
And just about everything else can be learned on the Blu-rays pretty effectively. Okay?
Fantastic.
Okay. I'm going to ask for another question now. Thank you so much for asking yours. It was a good question.
Okay, I'm going to unmute Alicia. You're unmuted.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Sort of following what she was just saying, I know a few years ago I came and I took Psychic 1 and 2, Psychic Development 1 and 2, and I was petrified to take Psychic Development 4. I'm someone who can't even watch a scary movie, so I was just wondering if, you know, like you said, with these protections, because you are working at such a high level, do you come across things that are scary or that you have a little bit of trouble shaking off?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's really not an issue. I know from when I used to teach in a much more public place, when I used to teach in Star Child, my bookstore. Remember, a bookstore is open to the public. Anybody can walk in and out all the time. We did copious protections all the time on that store, but there was also the time when I was teaching my meditation class and the bums with their bottles were grouped outside sucking on the energy of the class. Okay. So, I mean, when you're in a really public place, sometimes the intensity of the protection has to really be stepped up to keep that kind of thing out. It was so funny. Somebody was doing a psychic reading and saying, you know, I'm tasting alcohol. And I'm looking out the window, and there's the guy with the bottle. And I said, you know, I don't think that's the person you're reading here. Turn around and look out there. Now let's put up a wall and redo our protection, okay? So the thing is that one of the beautiful things about where I'm teaching right now, and this is one of the reasons I decided to go this route, is that I can get there the night before, the day before. I set up, I protect the room many times over and over. It's got layers of protection. My students are learning in a completely clear and protected space, and it is not open to the public. It's only open to you guys. So it's a really beautiful place to learn. It's taken me a while before I figured this out, but it really is almost like teaching in my living room at home. It's just that kind of nice feeling. In answer to your question, though, when you are studying, and there are many people who teach, so if you can't get to study with me, study with somebody, okay? When you're studying with a teacher who knows to help you to create your own protections, who protects your environment while you are developing and growing. So in much the way a parent protects the environment of a child, the child can grow safely and explore and experience and develop along the way because the parent's creating the safe space. Well, my job and my staff's job is to create that safe space for you to grow and experience in and to be able to find joy in it. And along the way, you learn all the things we are doing to be able to protect that space so you know how to do it yourself when you go home. Doesn't that sound like fun? And that's the reason why you study with a good teacher, okay? Notice I said good teacher. Get recommendations before you just study with anybody because, oh, I have come across, especially through LinkedIn, I've come across some of the most beautiful, wonderful teachers out there that are teaching classes that are worth going. I'm not the only person. I'm the only person who developed the Anastasi system. I love my system. I think anybody can learn to do these things through it. But there are other people teaching who are good and reputable. However, there are also some people out there who say they're teachers who just toss you into the ocean and don't teach any protection at all. And that really is a mistake to study with them because you just develop the ability to open, which is beautiful, but, you know, to what is the question? And then before long, you're the wounded person who shuts down and doesn't ever want to open it up again, you know.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Did that answer your question, I hope?
Yes, it did.
Good, good. Come, take the classes. And please understand something else. You know, one of the reasons I teach the classes, even to people who have no desire at all to be professional, is because the more afraid of something you are, the more you need to understand it. Because it takes the fear away. Okay?
Great. Thank you, Sandy.
You're very welcome. And I think we've got time for one more question before I'm going to have to wrap this up. So let's see who's out there with their hand up still.
All right, I'm going to go back to Michael because I know that he said he had 2 or 3 questions. I can get him unmuted. Michael, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, Sandy, actually the question is now about this slide here. Why would you want to be a psychic medium? This is actually something I've been struggling with for the last several months, because I've always told myself it's because I want to help people, and I still believe that, but allowing ego to seep in it's been a challenge, and it's probably more because I let my mind go with things. But, you know, this slide represents so much for me, and yeah, I'm hoping to explore this more when I'm able to come down and spend more time in classes with you. But
And you know, Michael, you'll remember, because you did go through the classes with me once already, that folks, all the way through our 3 classes that we have, 3 weekends, Psychic Development Level 4, Psychic Development Level 5, and Psychic Development Level 6. All 3 of those weekends work with mediumship, with spirit communication. And each time we begin a weekend, we ask ourselves this question: why do I want to be a psychic medium? And even today, all these years later, because I've been doing channeling and spirit communication myself for years, all these years later, I periodically also say, why do I want to be a channel? Why do I want to be a psychic medium? And you know, sometimes I come up with the answer, well, I don't. Other times I come up with the answer, well, because it's fun. Other times it's, well, it really felt good to help that person. It's not always the same answer, but it's very important to keep asking yourself that question, because as you progress over the years with your own development, it helps to keep your ego in check. And Mike, I'm grateful to you for bringing that question up as our last question of the evening, because folks, when we get into channeling and spirit communication, it is unbelievably important that we learn to understand who we are, that we learn to let go of our ego needs, because we can't possibly do a good reading for our client. We can't possibly stay clear enough to get good and accurate information from either our guides or someone who's passed if we're not as clear as a pane of glass. And that requires having our ego in check, period. There's no room in the psychic field for egos. There just isn't. And it's difficult because a lot of psychics who have some success do get very egotistical when they start to have that success. But it's not about the ego. And when the ego gets involved, the psychic or the psychic medium's ability to function and to really do well begins to be at risk. It begins to deteriorate. Okay? So you know, I'm not saying that you should not have any sense of self at all. You know, it takes a very, very strong sense of self to be able to let yourself go. Think about that for a while, folks, you know. So it takes a balanced ego, okay? And Mike, I'm grateful that you're dealing with this at this time in your life, because it says to me you're making progress. Yeah.
Well, you're a wonderful teacher.
Oh, and then my ego says, yeah, oh, thank you. Let me see the next slide, please, Trish. And thank you so much, Mike. That was a great question. Okay, in level 4, just as a recap, those of you who come to Tampa or get my Blu-ray or my CD or listen to them on audio tapes if you're old-fashioned, and there are also meditations that accompany this class that you can get. In level 4, you're going to learn what channeling is and how to do it. You're going to learn who your guides are and how you can work with them. That's important, how to listen to them and actually get their guidance and make use of it in your life. You're going to learn various exercises and tools that are going to help you to open and maintain that channel. That's not always the easiest thing in the world. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of practice. You're going to learn the difference between channeling and spirit communication, not just from what I've described here in the webinar, but by actually doing it. You're going to learn what spirit communication is, and you're going to learn tools that are going to help you connect with people who are presently living on the other side. You're going to recognize and deal with ego issues, Mike. You're going to learn protective techniques for yourself and your environment that are going to allow you to do all of these things safely. Now, I mentioned I've got some upcoming workshops. Here they are in the next slide. The Seeing Beyond the Veil is going to be the same weekend as Psychic Development Level 4 in Tampa. And folks, I'm not going to be doing a webinar presentation on the Seeing Beyond the Veil, but my good friend Robert, who's produced my Blu-rays, has given us a, I think it's about an hour-long clip from the beginning of my Seeing Beyond the Veil class, and that is presently available on YouTube. So you can go there and take a look at it, and that is it's chock full of information. There's a tremendous amount of information about what happens during the dying process, what death is all about the structure of the universe, your guides, what happens to people on the other side after they've passed. It's just an absolutely amazing class. And that class will be Friday night and Saturday night, April 26th and 27th in Tampa. And the Psychic Development Level 4 will be Saturday and Sunday, April 27th and 28th, all day from 10 to 5 p.m. So hopefully I'll see all of you or some of you there for all or part of that weekend. It's intensive. Now, in June, we don't have any of these classes going on in May because there are too many holiday weekends in May. But in June, on the 1st and 2nd, we have Level 5, and that's practice. It's developing the energy and the skill in spirit communication. We've got a pop-up here, needs to go, thanks. And that's a real important class for people who are needing the practice and needing my guidance and John Muir's guidance as they go through that practice. It's a real hands-on class. And Level 6 is the end of June, June 29th and 30th, and that's also in Tampa, Florida. That class, folks, is healing in spirit communication. Even if you have been a spirit communication expert, a psychic medium for many, many years, this class is really important. It just it's chock full of so much information on how to use your mediumship to heal both the living and the dead. And there's information in there that you're just not going to find in any books anywhere. And people who are practicing mediums need to know it. So if you can't get to the class, again, get the Blu-ray or the CD. I'm going to be starting my whole series all over again. So if you missed levels 1, 2, and 3, this summer, at the end of July, that last weekend, we'll be doing Level 1, the fundamentals. In August, the 24th and 25th, we're doing Level 2, energies and auras. And looking at our next slide, September 21st and 22nd is Level 3. That's the one I just did last month, so that webinar a lot of you were at. And Seeing Beyond the Veil and Level 4, what I'm doing in a couple of weeks in Tampa, is going to be repeated October 11th and 12th. And again, that's still in Tampa. And Level 5 will be in November. You can see the date. Level 6 will be in December. And I make those classes earlier in order to avoid the holidays. So, you know, if summer's work better for you, if it's easier to travel and get away, this will be your time to really take advantage of and do those classes. If you're saving money and shooting to travel next winter, I haven't got them set up yet, but thinking about going back to the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area to do a set of classes starting in March of 2014. But they are not on the calendar yet, so don't even go and look at them. I also want to remind you, I have my Sex and Energy webinar coming up. And Lisa, is that May 5th? I don't have the date here. Oh, yes, there it is. I'm looking straight at it. It's May 5th, folks, at 9 p.m. There is a charge for that webinar, and there is a limited number of people. So I've already got some registration happening here. If that interests you, make sure you get registered early. It'll be at 9 p.m. It's going to go probably to 10:30. It's at least an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it's a not to be missed class. I have a webinar coming up with Kayla Ambrose, my great friend, exploring the divine feminine and what it means for the evolution of humanity on August 8th. And again, there'll be a charge for that. You're going to see that on my site. Again, please, if you register early for that class, you're going to get quite a break in the price. So don't wait until the last minute to register for these. I have my free chat every other Wednesday. Please join me. My next topic, we have a topic here on Wednesday, April 24th, I think is not correct. Or is it? Oh, I'm just wrong. Wednesday, April 10th, okay, this coming like 2 days or 3 days from now, we're going to talk about the astral bar. That's what I was looking for. And then on the 24th, we're talking about mediumship and channeling. So if you still have questions after tonight's webinar, come to that, and we're going to bounce that around again on the 24th. And of course, I'm going to be doing Para X Radio with Sandy Peters, the Soul Chat show that she and I do together, Thursday, April 18th at 10 p.m. And of course, that's free. It's a call-in show, and it's a lot of, Sandy's just an amazing gal, tremendous insight, information. So all this is great. And it's not on the list yet, but you know, anybody who's up in New York in August, middle of August, I'm not sure the date, I think it's the 9th and the 10th, I'm going to be up in the Hamptons. So if you live up there, please check my site out over the next few days. I'm going to get those dates up. Folks, it has been lovely speaking with you, and I hope I'm going to see bunches of you in my class coming up soon, or at least one of them. And if not, I'm going to see you at the Astral Bar tonight. Good night.